Hello, hello, welcome. It's been a while since we've been live, a long time since we've been live. Looking forward to connecting with old followers, new followers. We got a few things to talk about today. Thank you for the love. Thanks for joining. I'm going to give it just a few minutes for people to get in before I get started. Talking about what we're up to, plant count limits, the Grow Your Own movement, some things that I've heard or learned in the DMs. Been talking to some people in DMs lately. If that's you, they've been enjoying the conversations, getting a better understanding of how people are doing things, and I saw something that I wanted to share with everybody. So, thank you, Perfect Source. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a minute. We've been doing this since 2016. We first thought of the idea for how to train a plant to grow sideways, trying to control the plant height. I was traveling a lot, growing my own, and that's what I want to do. Actually, I wanted to take a step back, especially for people who are new to Trellatech, don't really know much about me. My name is Aja. I'm the CEO and one of two co-founders of Trella. We created a way to automatically control the height of our cannabis plants, and then tweaked it so that it could be used for all types of plants, not just cannabis. I was growing in Massachusetts. That's where we're from. About 2015, medical licenses came out, or medical cards came out, so you could grow at home. Jumped right on top of it. Took me a while to convince the spouse to allow me to grow in the house. So the minute that it was legal, decided to start growing on my own. But thanks, Enrique. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Just want to wave and give people props. Appreciate you sticking around during your busy day. But we started growing in Massachusetts when it finally became legal in about 2015. And I wasn't a gardener, didn't know how to grow. So I went to a place called Grassroots Institute to learn how to grow. And it was an actual course. Like, you had to go over a series of 8 weeks, 2 to 3 hours every class on a Saturday, driving about an hour away to learn how to grow cannabis. That's what I did back 2015 timeframe. So the name of that school was New England Grassroots. I think they're still around, not sure, but they're here in Massachusetts, and learned a whole lot from that course and started growing, got going. But I traveled a lot at the time, so I had to automate a lot of things. I had to automate my lights, automate the nutrients, the water, my HVAC. I had a heater and a dehumidifier and a humidifier. So you know how it is, trying to get all that equipment, getting all those things in place. And finally got growing. I'd be gone for, a few days at a time. And only thing I couldn't figure out how to control was the height of the plant. Plants were growing way too high, getting out of control. So we decided to come up with a solution for that could do it while we were gone. And that's how we got to Trella Grow LSD. So that's a little bit about my grow background. But what I've got shown on the video behind me is from our YouTube feed. So if you check out our YouTube, you can see this video. It's how we train a plant in our unit. I've been spending some time in the DMs, though, trying to find growers who have plant count limits. So depending on where you live, the state that you live in, you may have a plant count limit of something like 3 or 4 or 6 or 12. I don't know if any of you have probably been in the DMs and been going back and forth with me about your plant count limits. If you have, please shout it out. What are you dealing with? You got 3, you got 4, 6. Some people have licenses so they can do 50, they can do 100. Good on them. But when you've got plant count limits, one of the things that we're trying to figure out is how do you make them as big as possible. So we were talking about different methods, and one of the growers that I was going back and forth with in the DMs showed me some pictures of his grow and kind of how he had it set up. And he's new to growing, so just I think it may be his second harvest, And I noticed something in his picture that I shared with him that might, easily improve his yield. So I wanted to just bring it up to the greater population, the community, and see what you guys thought about the use of plastic pots and ceramic pots for your soil grow. So if you're growing in soil, what kind of pots do you use? This particular grower, like I said, he's new, not very happy with the size of his plants, trying to figure out how to make them bigger. This particular grower was having issues, so I looked at his pots and I'm like, well, you've got plastic pots and ceramic pots. You might want to consider moving to something different, like soil fabric pots or air pots. So throwing it out there to see if anybody that's in the room right now has used. I use when I grow outdoors. So let me back it up. Mainly I grow indoors. We're in Massachusetts, trying to grow year round, so I grow indoors. But for the last 3 harvest cycles, I have grown outdoors, and I use fabric pots to grow. So when I'm growing outdoors, I'll use soil, excuse me, and then I'll do hydro when I'm indoors. And definitely, I get much better results with my indoor hydro than I do with my soil outdoors, even with the soil pots. But if you're growing in soil, what are you using? I mean, I'm sure. I'm hoping that people aren't still sticking with the plastic and the ceramic pots. I mean, if you can only get your hands on that, start with what you can get your hands on. But if you can go out there and purchase fabric pots or air pots, definitely do it. That's an easy way to increase the size of your plants, make them bigger, especially if you're dealing with plant count limits, depending on where you are. If you're trying to stay legal, it's best to try to get the most out of each individual plant. Because I'm public, and I know there's some people on here that, they post their plants publicly, they post their pictures publicly. I say I gotta be legit, so I'm trying to stick within that 6 plant count limit when I'm growing at home, and trying to make the most out of each one of those plants. And one of the easiest ways to do it is to give your roots as much room and as much oxygen as possible. So when you're using these plastic pots, like this grower was that I saw in the DMs, when you're using these plastic pots, they really don't allow for enough air and oxygen to get in there. It can lead to root rot. You can have situations where you're watering the plant and the water just kind of accumulates at the bottom of the container, doesn't really drain out. And there may be a couple of holes at the bottom of this plastic container, but not enough, not as good as like a soil fabric, a fabric pot that gives a lot of air, allows for really good drainage. You could even couple those types of fabric pots up with like a hydroponic hybrid setup. I've done that once where I took a fabric pot and I put it in a container and I had some water that I was oxygenating down at the bottom, and that really gave me a lot of air on top of the mesh pots, giving me a lot of air as well. Enrique Infante, you're asking about what about peat pots? I haven't tried peat pots, but I think peat pots have definitely more air, more oxygen in them than a plastic container would. So I would think that's an improvement. Hi, Mitch Bial. It's been a bit. Cookies Co-op joined. Thanks for joining. So have you tried those? Please let us know, Enrique, if you've had success with peat pots. But I'm just seeing that some growers are out there with plastic or ceramic pots and just saying, if that's what you're using and you're looking to try to get the biggest plants possible, you definitely want to start there. I would say that's probably you're going to be your biggest bang for your buck to get bigger plants, is to give your roots as much room and oxygen as possible by switching the type of containers that you use. They have that saying, as above, so below, which is kind of, more of like a spiritual saying or a universal saying. What you see above is normally what you see below the surface. And that goes with our plants as well. I mean, if you want a really big, huge plant, you're going to have to allow for a really robust, huge root system underneath. So first, make sure that you've got a big enough container, and then make sure that those containers give you as much air and as much oxygen as you possibly can get in there to give your plants the best way to possibly grow and succeed. Because not only do you need a lot of space, you want to make sure that you don't suffocate the roots with too much water and not enough air and not enough oxygen. So that's just my PSA to the community out there. Simple, easy things to do to get the biggest plant possible. You can also, do different plant training techniques, and that's what I've been going back and forth with people in the DMs about this week. Those of you that have plant count limits, depending on where you live, I also found it interesting that some people were like, fuck a plant count limit. This one person said, I live on the moon, so I can do what I want. Hey, more power to you, if you are that bold. But when I'm, doing this publicly and people know what you're up to, you got to stay within the limits. So we deal with plant count limits, and I know that there are other people out there that deal with plant count limits too. So besides, improving your lights, your soil, or your hydroponic setup, what else can you possibly do? You get to the point where you've kind of maximized everything else, and all you can really do is start training the plant and spreading it out and trying to get the most bud sites as possible, and to get as much biomass out of that plant as possible. So there are a lot of different plant training techniques out there. When we first started looking into this back in 2016, we did some research on all of them: scrog, super cropping, lollipopping, low stress training, LST, and we landed on LST, low stress training, because you didn't need to trim or prune the plant. I have this weird thing that happens when I see plants that have been excessively trimmed or pruned. It feels like my stomach physically gets tight when I see it. Like I feel the pain of the plant. It's weird. It's like when you watch a sports, like a basketball game or a football game, and somebody comes down wrong, and you see that joint get out of place, and you go, ooh, like that same feeling is the same feeling I get when I see plants that just seem to be overly trimmed, overly pruned, overly super cropped. So Savage Gardens, you feel the same way. Yeah, I physically feel it in my gut when I see plants that seem to be just overstressed and kind of overworked. So when we started looking into all the different types of plant training techniques, low stress training stuck out to be the one that kind of felt the best to us, because it didn't have as much of that trimming and pruning and physical manipulating aspect to it, that stress to it. So I didn't feel bad when I was interacting with my plants. I would have people come over and they'd be like, you should trim more of the bottom of your plants. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. That's something that's, physically challenging. Physically challenging for me is to over trim my plants. It just makes me feel too much discomfort. So with low stress training, when I found out that what you really need to do is to gently bend the plant sideways, and to try to maintain what's called apical dominance at the same time. That's the best way to get the most when you're doing the LST method. So LST stands for low stress training. Apical dominance means that you're trying to make sure that the top of the plant always knows that it's the top of the plant, because once the plant is confused and no longer thinks that it's the top. So how that happens is you can have, your main stem coming up through the top, and then you got your side branches. And when you bend that main top down, or you top that main top, all of the other branches think that they're potentially tops as well. So they all start kind of taking over and building a structure as if they're a top. But what happens is you stop the continual growth of the plant. You stop creating more, more side stems and more side branches. So if you can keep the apical dominance, if you can make sure that the plant always knows where the top is and allow it to continue to grow, you're going to get more side bushes. And then if you can lay it sideways so that all those side branches get access to the light, you naturally increase the yield of the plant without having to, thanks for it's a growing a bush with Butch. Thanks for checking us out. We're talking about the different types of plant training techniques. When we first started this back in 2016, we researched a bunch. Talked a little bit with, about scrog and lollipopping and super cropping, and just doing some research on those, which just felt like, I physically feel ill when I see plants that have been overly lollipopped or super cropped, or just physically, in my eyes, this is my own opinion, damaged to an extent. Plants are living things. Just because they don't scream and you don't hear them doesn't mean that they're not undergoing pain. And we consume our medicine too. So whatever we do to our plants, whatever stress we put into our plants, I believe can be transferred to us as well. So I think, and this is my opinion. I'm not saying that it's my way or the highway. Please, that is not the type of community that I like to build. But in my opinion, the way that I feel, the more that you interact with your own medicine and your own plant, the healthier it is, and the bigger the benefit you'll get out of it. So don't like over trimming. Just makes me feel a little bit strange to be too stressful and too physically damaging to the plant. And then also, whenever you cut or trim, you're opening up, a flesh wound on the plant, which can lead to bacteria and disease getting into those sites as well. So I like the low stress training technique where you just gently bend the plant sideways. You don't have to do any excessive trimming. And when you do it horizontally, when you do it sideways, you allow for more growth, and all of those branches can get access to the light. So that's the method, the theory behind Trello Grow LSD and what you're looking at on the screen and how we do what we do. If you're new and you want to learn more, check out our Linktree. You'll see a link there. We're also doing a contest, giving out a free Gorilla Grow tent to the top winner, and then some other discounts and prizes as well. So, check us out, and also be entered into a contest just for doing that. Just go to Linktree on our profile and click that top button, and boom, you'll be able to enter that contest and see our shop and learn about our pricing. But yeah, we were looking for growers that have plant count limits depending on where you live. It could be 3, it could be 6, it could be 12. You're trying to find ways to make the most out of each individual plant. For those of you that might just be joining, we talked a little bit about the type of containers that people use. I've seen some pictures. People are sending pictures in the DM, which I appreciate. I like seeing all the different setups. But this one grower who was fairly new showed a picture of a pot that was it's like a plastic, pot, and it was just like, hey, that's if you want to get a bigger plant, the first thing you should do. So I got a question here. How many plants can you have in Delaware? Maybe someone in the chat can answer that for you. I don't have that answer right off the top of my head. I'm in Massachusetts, where you can have 6. Savage says Oklahoma has 12 plants, 6 mature, 6 seedling. It'll vary. I don't know about Delaware though. Maybe somebody can find that out for you. But yeah, every state is different. Some states don't allow it at all, which is disappointing. And then also for those of you that might be in New York, just October the 5th, this was just announced. October the 5th, if you have a medical license a medical patient license to go to a medical facility to get your cannabis, you can now also grow. So if you're in New York and you want to grow legit in New York, you just have to go get your medical card. Which means, you go to a doctor, you get your medical card, and, everything under the sun is on the list now. So it should be hopefully easy for you to go out and get your medical card, and you can start growing plants in New York. That just happened October 5th, being able to grow in New York legitimately. So yeah, we're huge supporters here at Trello for the Grow Your Own movement. There's lots of different commercial cannabis growers out there, which we support some of them, but the ones that are more at that MSO level, so MSO stands for multiple state, so those that are kind of, going in the direction of the Walmart weed companies, we stay away from. Seen some concerning things in regards to pesticides, mold, and it's just nice if you can grow your own and know what you're consuming. Have consistent access to the type of strain that you like, because that's another thing. Is sometimes the quality and the strains are consistent at some of these retail shops. If you can grow your own, it's just a lot easier, a lot better. So we're huge supporters of people trying to figure out how to grow their own. If you're new to growing, it's a learning process. You have to get as many harvests and many cycles as you possibly can under your belt. You're only going to learn by just growing. I started back in 2015. I've had I went to a course. I talked about that a little bit in 2015. Went to the New England Grassroots Institute to learn the basics, and then got growing, because really you can sit there and read and learn everything off online or look at YouTube videos. But until you actually start your own grow, interact with the plant, learn, and then, look at it every other day or every day, and you get a sense of how it's doing, the health of it. That's how you really learn, is the hands-on approach. So if you're new to this, get started. Don't overdo it. If you're struggling with, trying to figure out how to train the plant, fit a plant in the small space, we're here to help. But get started and grow your own, because there's nothing like being able to have access to your own medicine, if you can, and to know exactly what it is that you're putting into your body and what you're consuming. I mean, if you put pesticides on your plant. You don't always know that when you're getting it from a commercial location, and they say, well, some of the pesticides that they put on cannabis are the same pesticides that they put on the food, but we're not smoking the food. We're smoking the cannabis, though, so that changes the chemical composition of things from time to time. Obviously, it does. That's the reason why we smoke. The cannabis plant is to decarboxylate it, get rid of that acid molecule, and change it from THC to THCA. So definitely grow your own if you can. Check out our link tree if you want to know more about our technique, our technology, and if you want to get your hands on it. We're doing some programs with people who want to test it out and also want to kind of be, in partnership and support it throughout the process. So if you want to know more information about that, check out our link tree, enter that contest. We get your email address in that manner, and then we can let you know what's coming down the pipe, give you the discounts, let you know about these testing programs, etc. But we'll be back in the DMs, checking DMs probably about once a day. So if you have any questions, you can always hit us up there as well. All right, everybody, mad peace, mad love. Thanks for your time today, and we'll be back next week. All right, later.